let's show begin. So, hello, Jason. Please, as everybody, I would like to ask you to introduce yourself. What are you doing? Where are you teaching? Some little bit of your background, maybe.
Sure. Um, I am currently in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm the coordinator of the drama therapy program here at Lesley University. Um, I've been here for about 4 years, I guess. I used to teach at Concordia in Montreal, Canada, and I taught at NYU and worked in New York City before that. So I've been around as a drama therapist. Um, I've also been the president of the North American Drama Therapy Association, and I'm currently the editor of Arts and Psychotherapy, the journal for creative arts
Oh,
therapies. Yeah, what else? I'm a drama therapist. Um, I'm a graduate of the DVT Institute, so I travel often to teach DVT, or I did before the pandemic, I guess. That's all changed. uh, yeah, that's the base. Those are the basics, I guess.
okay. Pretty impressive basics of
Oh, I don't
being
know about
editor
that.
of arts and psychotherapy. So I wanted to ask you because I know that you are doing DVT and also you are sometimes doing the role theory,
Mhm.
or maybe like more or less the role method. So in my mind is the question: how do you choose what to use? If it's like on just on the, let's say, stage with the client, like, okay, today maybe it's more time for DVT, or it depends on the client or on the group, or how do you choose what to use?
Yeah. I mean, I think the real answer, which maybe isn't the right answer, is that I think I use both at the same time often. I think that I'm so informed by both of them
Mhm.
that the way I do role theory and role method has a DVT quality to it. And the way I do DVT, I'm looking at role system and how to expand that. So they inform each other. For me, in terms of deciding what it's going to look like, that really depends on what the therapeutic goals are for the person that I'm working with and how they're presenting, what seems like it will be the way to get to them. Um, if it's someone who might be resistant to play, might be difficult for them to do something like that, then I'm going to um, probably start with role profile cards or something a little bit more simple that's going to allow them to feel like they have control over what they're experiencing and what they're exploring. If it's someone who's really rigid, I might try and invite them into the DVT play space to work on that rigidity. Um, but for me, it's pretty fluid. Clearly, if I'm working with someone who's potentially psychotic or has a difficulty in differentiating reality and fantasy, I'm not going to bring them into a DVT play space immediately. Um, yeah, and I think there are other things that inform the decision. I think there space, how much space I have and that is
Mhm.
accessible to me will decide whether or not I am doing a big embodied practice like DVT, um, and also how I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing in my body in relationship to the other person. But for me, they both have the same goal of expanding someone's ability to engage in the world, whether that's expanding their play space or expanding their role system, and helping to create more dynamic relationships with the world. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's not a very concrete answer.
I think it is. So I have two questions. I will start with one. As you are doing the DVT, you are teaching the DVT in many trainings. So I know that sometimes the DVT is just like too messy, too complicated for the drama therapist, which are based more on, I don't know, fairy tales or working with a story with a, like, let's say, traditional setup, like from Rene Munach. So maybe I would like to ask you, just like, how do you see DBT, and what do you think? How could you maybe like bring it for the people to just like to explain it, or maybe what you like about DBT, what is like helpful for you?
Yeah. Um, in my own story and in my own life transformation, DVT is the thing that helped me become what I needed to become. So I have a strong bias in terms of DVT in that sense. Um, DVT is founded on that principle that life is unstable, that life
Mhm.
is continually changing and continually shifting, and we can do what I tried to do before, which was construct all these structures to make it feel like I had control or make it feel like I understood the world. Or we can find ways of going with that instability, finding ways of actually navigating the world in in an unstable world. And so um, for me, DVT is really important because it helps us learn how to move and maneuver in a world that's constantly shifting for us. It certainly can look chaotic. I think in training moments and first introductions to DVT, it can be very chaotic. Um, but the whole idea is to help people discover what is blocking them, what is in their way, and find ways of engaging with that and moving forward. I was uh, I was actually just teaching an in-person DVT class this past weekend, the first in-person thing I've done in a year, and yeah, I was just reminded how much DVT principles are helpful in any kind of therapist that you're going to be, um, in finding ways of identifying what you're feeling in a moment and being able to name those things, being able to state that and do something with it in the moment. Um, I think too many of our therapy practices teach us how to reflect after something happens. So we do something and then we talk about it after, and we do something and we talk about it after, and that helps people develop a skill to reflect on experience. But DVT and other in the moment, here and now practices help us to name what's happening while it's happening, help us to do something about it while it's in the moment, rather than waiting until after the event. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those hard things where DVT, well, any drama therapy, but certainly DVT needs to be experienced in the context of someone who's explaining it to you, in the context of someone
Yeah.
who's putting it in context. Yeah.
And what helped you like to encourage yourself? As you said, you had a bias against the like DBT. What helped you to like step forward?
Well, I was saying before that I had a bias for DVT. I love DVT, but I
Mhm.
had a huge bias against it. I hated it when I was first exposed to it. I hated it. Don't don't tell my DVT colleagues that. Wait, is this going on YouTube?
Yes.
Oh no. Yeah, I hated it. It felt like chaos to me. It felt like something that was problematic. But I realized that was because I was so anxious and I was so rigid in my own life, which was causing me all kinds of problems out there. And so, um, slowly, by finding a group of people and a therapist that I trusted, I started to understand and learn how powerful it was. And then at the same time as I was learning it, I was doing it with individuals who were living on the streets in New York City with severe mental illness. And so I was seeing how powerful DVT was in helping individuals with immense rigidity and individuals with various diagnoses of schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, um, catatonic schizophrenia, all of these things where a lot of people had given up on treatment. I saw how the introduction of play and introduction of the play space helped them transform. So
Mhm.
that converted me pretty quickly to being someone who believed in it. You know, from a skeptic to a
Mm.
to a,
Yeah.
a believer.
Believer.
Yeah.
It's nice to see. Yeah, I can. maybe I can understand because most of the other the drama therapy approaches are about the structure, and DVT is completely from the opposite side, but not completely. Like I wouldn't say that.
Yeah,
It
I
looks
think
like.
yes, it looks like, but there's so much structure in DVT.
Yeah.
It works on that developmental framework, and once you learn the structure and you see what the structure is, it's like, oh, this isn't complete chaos. It can feel like chaos, and if it's not held correctly, if it's not led well, it can become chaos. But there's absolutely structure within it. That's what allows the play to happen. Is the presence of structure.
Mm. Maybe I think for using DVT, I have only 1 year after in training. So what I had the previous experiences, and I think maybe you have to be more structured because you have to structure inside of you as your person, because you have to manage it when it's happening and something. And I will it came to my mind. I ask you. I remember from the conference, DVT conference from Prague, that I watched you to the DVT training session, and you just said, "Oh, I will have a 2 cats, meow meow," and it fall down to your hands. I don't know if you probably don't remember.
I don't.
I I I remember it all the time, and in this moment, it came to my mind how important is imagination for DVT, and also what I'm thinking, that if can DVT help you to create I don't know, better imagination, or maybe develop it, make it bigger. This maybe the question for you, because you are teaching DVT for many years doing that. So how do you think it's connected?
Yeah. I don't know how it's connected to imagination, but certainly to play space. Uh, it helps us expand our play space, which helps us expand what we have access to, what we can find. So if we're trapped in our repetitions and we're playing with something, a pen or an image shows up of a pen. If I'm really rigid in my repetitions, I'm stuck with that. The pen is just a pen. But if I start learning that a pen can bend, and a pen can get big, and a pen can get really small, or it could not be a pen at all. It could be a volcano. It could be whatever. Suddenly, I start having access to all these different possibilities. In DVT, we call it the T space. This realm of possibility. And as I expand my access to that, then I can have cats fall out of the sky. I can have, small cars driving around my feet. Anything can be possible. And if that happens in the play space, if that, as you're putting it, if the imagination is increasing, then when I run into situations out in the world, the hope is I will have access to more options in those moments, that I won't be trapped to my usual repetitions. I'll have a lived experience of thinking outside the box, of having that divergent thinking that allows me to pull in more creativity, more spontaneity in that kind of way. So yeah, it's a muscle. If we have to flex it, we have to play with the play space and with the imagination, because I'm limited by mine. But if I play with you, you're going to bring in images, you're going to bring in things that I didn't think about, that didn't come to my mind. So suddenly, like, oh, you can have cats fall out of the sky, or whatever it is, and then now I have access to cats suddenly where I didn't have access before.
So
I was just
yeah.
going to give a quick example. One of my trainers a long time ago would do this chicken out of nowhere to diverge from a session. He just, and you're like, what is happening? And it has become one of my best things. I would have never become a chicken, but now that I was exposed to that in my training, I do it in training and in sessions, and I'm sure that my students and the people I have trained go and do the chicken. And we have these new things that have expanded what we have access to.
Yeah. I'm thinking about it I don't know if David talks about it in theory or somebody else, but it seems to me that we cannot use the costumes or props. That in our mind we are making the pilot of the costumes and the props like just like imaginary. And yeah, that's what is coming to my mind as you are talking about the chicken.
Yeah, we just open the costume cabinet and realize, oh, we have more things. We have more things in there.
Yeah.
You know.
I have maybe I don't I hope it's not so privately for you. I'm thinking, what do you experience like yourself? What is happening in your head when you are in the play space with a client, maybe, or in the training, whatever? Because as you were talking, I just remembered about my training, and I can say that I'm in different state of mind in some way. Just like for me, sometimes the space disappear, just create something from. It looks for me a little bit like from the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, how they stole the images from somebody.
Mm.
Uh, Inception, yeah, the Inception is the movie. So it's describing for me what's happening to me when I'm in this play space. So what's happening to you if you want to answer, if it's not too personal for you.
Um, I find that a little bit difficult to answer because I think it depends on what the situation is and who I'm playing with.
Mhm.
What is happening? I mean, usually if I'm well, let me back up. Uh, I think because I've been doing DBT for 20 years now, I guess. Um, it's a language I speak, so it's not something I think about a lot. And because of that, it allows me to spend more time focusing on the people that I'm playing with, and to have and to be very aware. I'm not thinking about my interventions or what I'm doing as much. I'm delighting in the play, and my reflexes in the play are happening. Um, Mark Williamson and I have done some presentations about how the play space becomes even more rich if the therapist is also taking risk within the play space. If the therapist is also expanding their play space in the moment, because since I've been playing for so long, I can fall into my repetitions in a play space really easily, where I'm not thinking about it much. I can pull out the chicken, no problem, and do that without really thinking about it much. But the really quality therapy sessions for me are when I find myself very present with the client and find ways of engaging and doing that in the moment play, where I'm also looking at my own play space and how I can stretch and expand
Mhm.
that. Um, but when I was first a DVT practitioner, um, my experience was very much an in and out experience where I was inside of my head trying to figure things out, and then I would come out into the play and then go back into my head and then come back into the play. Um, and that was very complicated.
Mhm. Sorry, I just checked because my phone was like hotspot was turned off, but luckily our Wi-Fi is functioning again. So
Oh, yay.
we just smoothly went from one
Seamlessly.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's incredible. I would use you also for another question because as you are editor of arts in psychotherapy, you've wrote many articles and you are teaching. Uh, that's this question maybe will sound like that I want to steal you some research, but it's not. I would like to ask you, what do you think it's need to do in dramatherapy research? Do you think there is something what is missing? What should be, if there's any area which people should research? Maybe we will help some students to write thesis. I don't know. It's up to you if you want to answer. I'm just thinking constantly about this, and Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes just something came to my mind.
Yeah. I I have many answers. I'm trying to decide where to start. We can always use more research in drama therapy. Of all of the arts therapies, drama therapy has some of the least amount of writing and research. Certainly, the Drama Therapy Review, the Drama Therapy Journal are doing some spectacular things in terms of encouraging research and helping with research. But anyone who wants to turn their thesis, for example, into an article, I would encourage them to find a research mentor. I know here in North America, the NADTA is creating some mentorship opportunities to help people do things like that, because we need more documentation. Unfortunately, we also need a lot, unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but we need a lot more quantitative research as well, a lot more numbers that can help in terms of advocacy, in terms of getting funding, in terms of government projects. There have been some Cochrane reviews and some other larger research studies that try and look at the efficacy of drama therapy, and most of them show that we can't prove that drama therapy works. We don't have enough studies, and we don't have the right kind of studies. So I think finding ways of supporting large-scale research is what drama therapy as a profession needs. Some randomized controlled trials, some things like that that the other professions have, that give them more power and more ability when it comes to negotiating government things and funding opportunities. So we need more of that, but we also need more researchers who can do that.
Yeah, it's true that because I tried to look for some team to do systematic review, but it's so difficult because you will end that you are not able to put enough of the research for make it so do it right way, do that as you should do a systematic review, because it's so, oh my gosh, it's so much work.
So much work, and we don't have the studies out, and the studies we have don't always give us the right information to allow us to do a systematic review or something that's going to help us understand what's happening. So, as a profession, we need a lot more work. Nisha, who's editing the Drama Therapy Review, and Drew Bird, who's editing Drama Therapy, and I actually just scheduled a meeting for us to chat as editors to kind of see how we can also work together to support research within the professions. I know that the research committee in the NADTA is doing some remarkable work as well. And certainly in the Netherlands, there's some spectacular work happening.
You mentioned quantitative research. So do you mean some specific areas? You mentioned like the randomized trial studies, but like just quantitative about something. Is something in your mind, some like the bigger team, which can maybe this interview will help some people to say, oh yeah, they said this one, so I can do research or something. It could be, I think it could be nice and helpful for the people.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it has to be simple. I think sometimes we get too complex. One of the other problems that we have around randomized controlled trials is that we don't have standardization. So our interventions are pretty loose in terms of what we do and how it shows up. So getting some manualized processes out there will certainly be important. My dear colleague Laura Wood is working on manualizing her COAPT process, which is a therapeutic theater process. But starting really small and really clear to get some basic numbers to understand what the functions are out there in drama therapy, what's happening, and then building on that with the larger community of researchers. I think people are scared of numbers. they're scared of quantitative research because they feel like it's difficult, but something is better than nothing. So if we can get some well-designed pre-test, post-test research out there, would be great. Autism research, aging and dementia, these things that have a lot of research that's happening anyway, or that the other arts therapies are doing things in relationship to, there's already groundwork. There's already models out there for how to do some of this research. So if drama therapists just look to that, we can model studies after those. There's also important research that's happening. The research committee of the NADTA is looking more intently at being able to describe core processes in drama therapy so that they can become more observable. We can have a universal language that when we're saying dramatic projection, when we're saying witnessing, when we're saying these certain concepts, that we're all on the same page about what that is and what that looks like. That will help us measure what's going on in drama therapy better as well. That's a very rambling answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's like all of those answers. And also, as you mentioned, core processes, for me, it's like every time it has been like one of the most important part of theory in drama therapy, because it's giving me like the bigger picture and something concrete. So
yeah,
really important.
Because we have to have that language that speaks about drama therapy across the board. So much of it is approach based. So DvT has its own language. Role theory has its own language. Renee's five phase integrated 5-phase model has its language. We all have our own languages, and that makes it really difficult to say drama therapy is one thing. Drama therapy has something in common. So we need those core processes to be able to articulate, this amazing profession that we're in, and to be able to name what's actually happening and what's going on.
We would need something what Prohaska and Norcross did for psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have the last question for you. Usually I'm just like asking the first and the last question is the same. Or the one is just like what come to my mind and improvising.
Yeah.
I think it's the best way. I'm just asking usually, what do you think that the drama therapist should know? If you are thinking, yes, this student or whoever the person is, and you will say, okay, he is the drama therapist. What do you think that the drama therapist should have like the training in terms of trainings, reading, knowing yourself, whatever. You are teaching, as you said, you are teaching a lot. So what do you think it's important for the drama therapist?
It's funny because I go back and forth from, what are the readings and books and things. But I think it is understanding the fundamental concept of what drama therapy is. It's the idea that we're inviting people into this, as Penzick says, this dramatic reality, this place of possibility, and that we are able to do things in that space that we don't get to do anywhere else. And that then transforms us. It then, because we're doing it usually embodied, we become different people. We're able to engage in the world in a different kind of way. And I think that is what is unique to drama therapy, is our ability to step into that place and to be in that place where we can do anything, we can be anything. And adding that quality of play allows us to transform the thing in that space, allows us to do something with that thing so that it's different. So many of our people come to us with their trauma or their diagnosis, and it's very precious to them. It's something that has defined them. It's something that is their identity. And it's very hard. Their defenses aren't going to let them let go of that or get rid of that very easily. So drama therapy allows us to create this possible space, this dramatic reality where they can come in there and play around with this thing a little differently. They can do something with it that they can't in their real life. They can play something, be something that they weren't able to do before. And then they go back into their real world and they're like, oh, but I have a lived experience of this. We were playing this past weekend with the idea of saying no. People were talking about, oh, I can never say no. I'm just not someone who says no. I don't say no. But then we enter the dramatic reality and they take on a character that is the no character. And they're telling everybody no, 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 no. And they have this embodied experience of saying no, of setting limits in a new kind of way. They leave the dramatic reality, they go into their life, and they now have a history of their body doing that thing. So I just think that's the magic of drama therapy. It's what makes me so excited is we give people an opportunity to physically embodied be something different and practice something else, do something, not be the depressed person for a little while, or not be the person who's stigmatized, who everyone's pointing at, to have power where I didn't have power otherwise. Yeah, our world needs it so much right now. It's like, please.
Yes,
So,
I
yeah.
agree, definitely.
Yeah.
And you brought me to new questions. Sorry, oh my gosh, to new question. It's happening. What is happening?
It does.
It's
You're
the beauty
human.
of the life. You mentioned a book, so maybe I will have a new question for the people, for the drama therapists. Is there any 1, 2, or 3 books which were and maybe still are important for you, or maybe some were and some they are still?
Because I'm in North America, the Current Approaches book is important to see what approaches are being used here
Mm-hmm.
and the different ways that people are doing drama therapy. So I think that's really valuable. More than books at this point, I would say people should be reading journals. They should be looking at current research that's coming out. Like I said, the drama therapy journal, the drama therapy review, some in arts and psychotherapy, although there's not as much drama therapy specific in there. There is, but the other two are focused solely on drama therapy. There's just exciting things that are coming out and really, really neat things that people are doing with drama therapy. So every time I look at those journals, my mind is expanded in terms of what we can do and how to perceive our work. It also helps me stay contemporary in terms of how people are talking about the work and virtual reality, all that kind of stuff that we're not going to find in the textbooks at this point. That's all.
So as you mentioned, the articles or journals, is there any article which you can recommend that stick in your mind for the last, I don't know, half a year? Something would really caught your attention?
That's a good question. Nothing is jumping to mind. I'm looking around to see what I have around me. The Drama Therapy Review did a special issue before the pandemic about online and technology and all of that related to drama therapy, and then they did their supplemental piece about people's drama therapists' experiences during the pandemic. And I think both of those are really powerful and very timely about how people are experiencing things. I actually wrote an article along with my students. We wrote an article about the experience of some online work for a previous one, and then Laura Wood wrote another one with some students about teaching group in an online format as well. So some good timely things.
In drama therapy journal, I think I read just maybe the abstract, not all the article. It's so many now.
Yeah.
So I will try to put the link on your article below to the description. Yeah, as you mentioned, the dramatherapy review and the theme of online and all those things, I was thinking, oh, the review was like kind of the oraculum or prophecy. Like
Totally.
after
Yeah.
that, I think they called for papers and before closing of the issue, but maybe I'm not sure how was it, but it was close to that. Like the issue was like the release and the pandemic started or something like that.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
It's kind of the magic.
It was very, very, yeah. You know, Nisha and her team are psychic.
Maybe she can see to the future.
Probably.
I can ask her. She should be the host in like 3 weeks, something like that.
Great.
So I will ask you, Nisha, please, can you see to the future?
Yes. And she will do her Nisha thing and
oh yeah, Jakub,
prophesy
please
something.
let me thank you. I can imagine how her will respond. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just lovely. Thank you very much, Jason, for the interview.
Thank you for the invitation.
It was packed with information.